Yo guys, what's going on? Brian here for Ginger Prime. And I think this is something that we want to talk about here, especially in relation to the latest updates about Square-Enix selling off the Western studios for really mere pennies when you factor all the IP that they sold off to Embracer with. Now, Kotaku is reporting this today, and I thought we'd spend some time jump through the article itself. I'd give you guys my thoughts. Feel free to obviously weigh in with your own. And just note that if you feel like I'm coming off on any kind of form of positivity turns NFTs, that's just the software engineer inside of me. Overall, I've stated this numerous times, and if you're new here to the channel, I've been very hesitant about NFTs, especially as it relates to the concept of play to earn in video games. I usually kind of reserve a little bit of like, let's see what's going on here. But with NFTs, it's just kind of like, I just think that sounds like a bad recipe. I could be wrong. I'm always willing to admit that that's an opportunity, especially for my opinion, especially as it relates around the industry. But I want to spend some time in this article. So you're going to hear a couple different sides of my opinion here in this, as a gamer, as a software engineer, someone who's actually studying blockchain technology, but also has some massive reservations as it relates to video games and gaming culture altogether. Now, the article will be linked whether you like Kotaku or not, whether I'm saying their name correctly or not. I always want to make sure that anytime I'm referencing an article, it's in the description for you guys. Always want to encourage those clicks. That's how we get these type of videos. That's how we get these type of articles. That's how we continue to generate interest within gaming culture. Again, whether you like them or not, I'm not here to say that. All right, let's dive in. So it reports NFT market collapses just as Square-Enix sells Tomb Raider to bet big on blockchain. So you know that no one could have ever predicted a market based off of imaginary ownership of infinitely duplicated JPEG images might not be the end game long-term sustainable. As the Wall Street Journal has reported, the NFT market is flatlining. It's down 92% from last September, which makes the most incredible time for Japanese publisher Square-Enix, famed for properties like Final Fantasy, sell off their most Western IP-facing studios to gamble on this, we'll say, bad scheme. So, a few things in this regards. I continue to state, like, the Square-Enix CEO is really pushing on this, and my view when it comes down to, especially leadership outside of gaming, I mean, this is a global idea here. It comes down to is whenever they put a CFO in charge of a company, I do have massive reservations. Not that they haven't done good things, not that Square-Enix hasn't done good things and I haven't enjoyed the games they released. The balance sheet though on these companies outside of NFTs, like the balance sheet that they released for these companies, like it was razor thin margins. They were profitable, but like in gaming, one bad game, especially if you don't have other games to offset that revenue, it could crater you. And so I think essentially they were carrying a lot of risk and a lot of debt. As far as I know, they're saying more cloud AI and blockchain technology to take that investment. Yeah, like it is seemingly a bad time, but I wouldn't count NFTs out. Like I don't want anybody to sit here and come off this video as like, oh, a victory, NFTs are gone. I just think that when you look at the NFT market, just like the crypto market, it is a volatile market. It isn't a market that's really based off of anything. It's based off of hopes and feelings and also, like, without regulation, probably a lot of manipulation that could be happening in it. Now, just as a disclosure, I do not own any NFTs, but I do have some crypto assets, if you will. That is, I don't know if that's important to you. I just figured you should know. Yesterday, we learned that Square-Enix intended to sell Crystal Dynamics, which we covered here on the channel. Anyway, so that included Deus Ex, Tomb Raider, Thief, Legacy Kain. Why to quote Square-Enix, the transition enables the launch of new businesses by moving forward with investments in fields including blockchain, AI, and the cloud, which is to say previously announced desire to milk NFTs and blockchain. AI in the cloud, I think, is also kind of one of the things that's getting missed in the overall conversation because this could be something dramatic. However, when you start to think of the big players in the space, even Sony partnered with Microsoft on cloud technology. And I don't know, like, is Square-Enix actively going to build out their own cloud? Or are they going to partner with Amazon or Google or Microsoft or get acquired? That's a debate that's been going on this whole time, but we'll continue on. NFTs feel like a most extraordinary, precise emblem of the 2020s. It's all glaringly obvious pile of bull. I love this. Companies are literally selling a line of code as what they call blockchain to replicate or to repackage an extremely old idea of digital asset ownership as the next big investment. You should get in on it now while the going is good. You should be able to own things like video game skins for a long time, of course. Somehow, though, many of these companies are putting a lot of effort into pretending that you can now own a picture and then pretend what's going on in the picture somehow becomes imbued with inherent worth, all given life through idiots clapping their hands and shouting how they believe in fairies. I still think that there's manipulation going on behind the scenes. I think people like actively believe in it, but when it comes down to it, like what we've seen also within the content creation space, if anybody's been following these nightmare stories, kind of these pump and dump schemes, like, oh, this is the next big thing, you want to get on this, and then just like literally like pull the rug and then walk away, like hands free and profitable. I find that stuff appalling. To say the least, and it concerns me, and it's one of the things like I was always gonna say, like, you know, it's kind of weird, like the old adage, like if it sounds too good to be true, like, you know, maybe that's a red flag. There is a distinct difference in what NFT possibility versus the practice of what NFTs are, and this is the software engineer side coming into play. Like NFTs having the smart contracts, having the ability to have that kind of, you know, charge or that cut go back to the original owner, does present interesting things that are possible. But when we talk about possibilities, you also have human psychology that always comes into play. And so the intended effect doesn't necessarily mean the outcome effect. And I know this hands down. When I write an app, like it always works for me, but it's always interesting when I actually get it in the hands of somebody and then they use it in a different way than like was intended. And then I always kind of learn a lesson or two from that. That's kind of on a micro scale as opposed to like what is actively happening here. We'll talk more about the pay to earn thoughts here in just a second. Unfortunately, a lot of the clapping idiots wear expensive suits and talk loudly in boardrooms. And as every other aspect of the scam fest that is Web 3.0, businesses have been desperately scrambling to profit before the whole illusion blows away like a breeze. And it seems like that breeze may have shown up earlier than anyone was expected. So the Wall Street Journal doesn't mince words in its reporting. It openly line simply states the NFT market is collapsing, citing not only that 92% fall in sales, but also the extraordinary drop of active wallets by 88% since November. Now, we're obviously the article is not reporting what the overall volume in and of itself is, but this could be a good thing. When we talk about market resets, when we talk about like corrections that happen and occur in markets, this could obviously be that, where it's like, oh yeah, everything was overvalued because everything was hyped. The other aspect of this, though, is you have like the real realities of life hitting everybody right now with massive sets of inflation. I know, like for me, and I shared this last night on the stream, like how much eggs have cost us, like gone up like 5 or 6 times, where we used to spend like $2 or $3 on eggs, and now we're spending $13 on eggs. And gas alone, like at the end of the day, I've been doing stand-up comedy. I don't know if that's interesting to you, but one of my jokes was like, I've lost 30 pounds this year, and I've been doing that by a decision. But the joke ends up being like, I didn't realize it was going to be a political statement, because people seem to be like, oh, look at you with the recession, with the Biden diet or something like that. So anyway, note to self, like that, I'm not telling it like I tell the story. I'm not a great comedian. I'm just having a lot of fun with it. I tell that because I don't know why. I just tell it because I tell it. All right, go ahead. This is partly due, it seems, to the rising interest rates that are strangling the poorest. In turn, it's caused the richest to be far less risky with their speculation, and you can't get much more speculative than betting on mass delusions of JPEG ownership. This is a delusion that has been breaking a lot of people as of late, who have discovered the promises that NFTs would somehow gain value over time isn't vaguely true. As we've recently reported on about his attempt to sell the NFT of Jack Dorsey's first tweet, you can copy it for free if you want, which he paid $2.9 million, expecting to see bids of $50 million, and received nothing higher than $3,600. He has since had a bid of just shy of $14,000, or less than 0.5% of what he paid for it over a year ago. You know what? Fooling his money in that regards. Man, that's wild. That is Would you rather have $2.9 million? I don't know. I would love to see that kind of money in my wallet. I'd love to see 13. I'd love to see that. That'd be wonderful. 1,300. Hilariously, the Wall Street Journal reported last month his reason for not parting with it over his payment of $14,000 is because I think the value of this NFT is far greater than you can imagine. Whoever wants to buy it must be worthy. Yeah, you want 50 million for it, like that. I mean, that's a profit. Like if you could find somebody who wants to take it off your hands for that. Yeah, unfortunately for this, many game publishers are betting on this one-legged horse, and the consequences would be bleak from Square-Enix, Ubisoft, Sega, Team 17, Zombie, Atari, Konami, and GameStop. The industry is thigh-deep in all this bull. NFTs are QAnon. If it were stock, I believe that the flat earth could be bought and sold, and depends of the belief of their own existence to exist, requiring faith in religious notions of worthiness in order to flourish. As the planet hits the financial consequences of the last 2 years, it appears such faith is not so easily found. NFTs are always going to be a bubble. I believe in bubbles in that regards, like that. I think that rings so true. It felt like a bubble. It just is like, all right, and then you got to know when to get out. And no doubt they have little spikes, a resurgence of interest in the last few non-sequential twists. I can't even say that word. Reaching nowhere near as high as 2001, but allowing for true believers to keep duping themselves and others for a while to come. And let's hope that this is the new market collapse. It's finally enough to scare the game industry away from this ludicrous money pit. I've reached out to Square-Enix to see if the news has given them any pause. If not, well, I've got these lovely JPEGs and some bridges that I could sell them. So I think I like the snark in this article. I really actually do appreciate it. I don't think it's going to deter the game companies, because essentially, as far as the technology goes, it still exists. It's a matter of that people are going to try and try again. I do feel like we've been in this bubble. So essentially that, let's say the tweet, let's go back to the Dorsey tweet that, 14,000, right? Let's say that's the value. He clearly overpaid for it. If that's what somebody's willing to own it for, is 14,000. So essentially that they're putting value on this, essentially this queue on the blockchain. Essentially, if you guys, I guess to define it for those who haven't been keeping up, it is a public record. It's essentially like a digital like stamp of, okay, you owned it, then you owned it, you owned it. NFTs have this concept of smart contracts in which that if I sold you something digitally and then you sold it and it went up in value, I could get a cut of that sale. So let's say you sold that tweet for 50 million. Congratulations. Then essentially, like as the original owner of it, I could end up getting a cut back. I can get a smart contract piece of that back. So there's still a technology piece that exists here. And I don't think that this is the end of the NFT, nor do I think that companies will shy away from NFTs. I just think NFTs and crypto probably has been hyperly overvalued. And the thing about that is that especially in the last 2 years, there's been a lot of crazy, a lot of first times, a lot of unknowns. And now we bring this all back around 360. And now it's like, well, you got to feed your family, right? Like my family can't eat crypto. My family, I don't have NFTs. I haven't owned them any. But essentially that idea, like all of a sudden it's like, okay. And then if you have to sell, then in this case, I guess he's fine with not selling for that kind of a loss. If you have to sell, that's essentially kind of when you lose for the most part. But overall, like, does this mean the collapse? I think we've seen obviously a massive cut. And hopefully this helps snap people back into reality, make them kind of take a look better at what options they have if they feel like investing or if they're just kind of following on for the memes. I think it's going to be an interesting 2022 to say the least. And obviously with everything going on around the world, clearly NFTs are taking a hit. And I want to know, question over to you guys, like, is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? Are you excited about this, or like, am I underselling what NFTs can do? Like, let me know, like, especially in that. If you guys are new to the channel and you feel like hitting that subscribe button, or if you feel like you would hit that like subscribe button if I did something else extra, let me know how I can earn your subscription in the comments. That way I can try to make these videos better and more informative to you. If you feel like I did earn your subscription, be sure to let me know so I can welcome you to the channel itself. My name is Brian. This is Ginger Prime. This is an interesting news story that I thought would be interesting, at least for a discussion. And so I'm looking forward to your comments in obviously the comments below. Thanks, guys. Love you. See you next time. Take care.
Yeah. It's time to chill out on the couch and read some comments. That's right. You know me when it comes to destiny. I'm off with a clan, and I'm glad you're feeling better. Oh, yeah.